You just give me facts.
Can I turn down his microphone? Because he
can't. Yeah, just see which one he is. I think he's
Right.
seat 3 or which one is it, Rob?
Seat 3.
Seat 3.
Seat 3. Go ahead, lower that right there.
And then the mic.
Right there. There you go.
Volume.
I was going to say, maybe not put them beside each other, too. Maybe, again, you should probably just put them in a separate room.
Democratic Parties at today. Play this clip, and I want to ask you, Sam, what happened to the Democratic Party? Go for it.
Toledo, voters' views of the Democrats in Congress among all voters disapprove, 68%. And look at the approved number, just 21%, even lower than the Democratic Party at large. This is the lowest on record for Democrats, according to Quinnipiac University polling. You think these numbers are bad? Let's go to this side of the screen. We'll look how Democratic voters feel. Get this. The plurality of Democratic voters disapprove of Democrats in Congress at 49%, and just 40% approve. Horrible, horrible, horrible. Oh, my goodness gracious, you just can't get worse than these numbers.
And this is the number right here really driving all of this. If Democrats have turned, if Democratic voters have turned on Democrats in Congress and the Democratic Party, that's what puts the numbers at historic lows. What is it they want to be seeing, these voters?
What is going on? I'll tell you what's going on. They don't like what's coming out of some of those Senate Democrats like Chuck Schumer, because take a look at the direction of the party. Democratic voters on Democrats in Congress doing too little to oppose Donald Trump. Look at this, 77% should stay principled, even if it means nothing gets done in one.
I'm glad they played the second part of this clip, because I've seen a lot of right-wingers just play the first part of this clip and be like, the woke is destroyed. We have defeated them. And then it's like, this is a lot of people who are disgusted with the corporate Democratic wing of the party that clearly, it's just, as we said before, they're just not equipped to deal with the moment. They don't know how. You can't meet fascism with stern words, some chants, maybe, bowing in kente cloth and potentially fundraising and selling a book. That too. The strongest tools in the shed that we have.
Washington, D.C., 65%. And this 65% is such a difference from where we were in 2017 at this point, when just 33% of Democrats say they should stay principled, compared to 59% who said they want to compromise. Democrats do not want compromise at this point. They want a fighter. They want to go into the ring like Muhammad Ali did against Sonny Liston. They want to take down the Republicans. They do not want this compromise anymore. They want to be more like Republicans, get up to that stage and fight. And right now they feel like their leaders in Congress are simply not doing so. And that is why their approval rating for congressional Democrats is at all-time low, even among Democrats.
Rob, if you want to pause that. Sam, what happened? What happened to the Democratic Party?
Well, I should start by saying I always thought that Trump would be the nominee. And 2 years ago, I was wondering why Ron DeSantis was lighting his career on fire by trying to run against Donald Trump, to be honest with you. I think, Trump and the Republican Party, I think they're one and the same. And so that doesn't surprise me. Those numbers are some of the most encouraging numbers I've seen in the 20 some odd years I've been doing this, because I want to see it communicated to Democratic leadership that we want you to fight. And I've been riding Chuck Schumer for, 10 years, trying to get him. I mean, Harry Reid was a great, I think, as far as they go, leader of the Senate for Democrats. But I think it's time for new leadership in the Democratic Party. We need and this is not even ideological from my perspective. I think there are Democrats that I agree with and Democrats that I disagree with on an ideological standpoint. But I think a different generation of Democrats understand that the Republican Party is intransigent. There is no negotiating with them. I think the biggest mistake that Joe Biden made was following the American Rescue Act, which was a massive boon to the American public. We cut child poverty by 45% in a year. I just want to repeat that. We cut child poverty by 45% in a year because of that act when Biden first got in. And you know what Republicans were talking about after we passed bills that cut child poverty in a year, that extended unemployment benefits, that provided food stamps, that provided health insurance. Republicans were talking about 2 books that the Dr. Seuss publisher decided not to publish. And so in my mind, the Republican Party there is completely bankrupt of ideas. And Joe Biden, instead of pushing through Build Back Better over that summer, he opened the door for the Republicans to give a proposal. That went nowhere for 3 months. Then he opened the door for Kristen Sinema and Rob Portman to come in and give a proposal. And that ultimately, I think, is when Democratic voters started getting impatient with Biden, because we were thinking $5 trillion, $4 trillion. Joe Manchin was saying $6 trillion Build Back Better bill. And we never got anything like that. It ended up getting split into the IRA, which was a good bill, but I think insufficient. And then infrastructure stuff, also important, but insufficient. And so I think what you're seeing is frustration from Democratic voters who are saying, A, you're not fighting. B, you're allowing the Republicans too much opportunity. And C, we need more government intervention.
Do you think it's more that they're not fighting, or do you think that their policies are simply bad policies and they're not landing?
No, I think it's that they're not fighting. What are their policies?
So tell me what policies are, like right now, the Democratic Party. Who is the face of the Democratic Party, and what are the top 3 things you guys stand for?
Well, I don't think there is a face of the Democratic Party at the moment. I mean, Chuck Schumer is nominally the highest elected Democratic official that's out there.
That's not a good sign for you guys.
100%. I agree. I call for him to resign every day. I don't know that there is a single. I don't think the Democratic Party has coalesced around an agenda. We're having there's a fight within the Democratic Party.
But what do you like? Do you have someone you like that you would want to see, or do you want to see the capitalistic competitive philosophy of somebody just comes out and lets you who it is? Because if there is, even you right now, Sam,
capitalistic, I don't understand.
What I mean by capitalistic, like competitive. Let's just see who comes out.
Competition predates capitalism.
Yeah, so that's good. The competition is a
yeah.
good
No,
thing,
I mean,
right?
I think obviously there's going to be a competition.
Is there anyone you like?
Well, I think there are policies that I like that are expressed by like Sanders and AOC on their tour, their anti-oligarchy tour. I mean, obviously, I think there are other policies that are floating around that I don't know that they're necessarily embodied in politicians yet. People are looking. There's a lot of stuff that Tim Walz did in Minnesota that I think is great.
Putting the tampons in the bathroom, that was my favorite. Putting in the men's bathroom, that was probably one of the best.
I love how he opened this by saying, at a time when there was actual discussions and policies, one of which effectively reduced child poverty by 45% or 48%, effectively showing that it is a matter of policy, in fact, to maintain child poverty insofar as they do it. He's like, the Republicans on the other end were complaining about books by Dr. Seuss getting canceled or wokeness. And then immediately he's like, what are some of the policies you believe in? Well, I want to say, you know what I really like? Yeah, I like that he put tampons in the bathrooms. Yeah. How do you like that, biological males? How'd you like seeing the tampons? How'd that make you feel?
Ones putting that, because that's type of policy that I think that we need in the country.
No, hang on. Tell me what Walz did that you liked.
Substantially,
statistically, that Walz did.
I think things like lunches for kids, expanding educational opportunities.
Wait a minute. There weren't lunches for kids. There wasn't federal money from the Department of Education. Free lunches for kids.
Yeah.
Okay.
What else?
Well,
no, let's go.
Are you not entertained? I'm sorry. What more did you want? Or were you hoping to get a gotcha? Is everything just being set up for a gotcha there, and you're just sitting there? He's like, okay, fine. But yeah, that would be a policy that I liked. I think that's a good thing. Yeah, sure. Whatever. Yeah, okay. Couple kids eat.
I really want to hear it because a lot of this was federal money that floated. I really want to know.
Well, other states reject expansion of Medicare and Medicaid. I should say Medicaid in Minnesota. He provided for
expansion to who specifically?
To through the ACA to people making 400% of poverty. He's got.
Wait a minute. Medicaid is designed. If I walk in with a broken leg to a public hospital, right? That Medicaid is there to take care of me if I'm destitute and unable to it. That's a good thing. And that's exactly the things that California did. And it was already there. What was expanded about that in Minnesota?
You're expanding the pool of people who can access Medicaid on a state-by-state basis. There's still, I don't know, half a dozen states, Republican states, that don't allow that expansion of Medicaid.
Okay, so
you're not aware of that?
So yeah, I'm absolutely aware of it. But what I want to ask you is, when you expand the Medicaid, it is a fact that basically you close the public hospitals. And so what you're talking about, the things he did
That's not true.
Oh yeah, ask Gavin Newsom. Ask him what happened to King Drew in Los Angeles. This is well documented. I'm stunned.
No, you can do a choice if you want to close a public. I mean, Andrew Cuomo closed a lot of public hospitals in New York State. That's not a function of Medicaid payments.
You want to go take a look at California and King Drew and what happened? Gavin Newsom himself talked about it.
I'm not a fan of Gavin Newsom, but you're asking me about Walz. But
also, I feel like when this happens, when you get Sam Cedar going on to right-wing podcasts, talking to them about these issues, a lot of them have anecdotes. They have like a story, and it's been a story repeated so many times that they all know the scenario very well. They'd be like, hey, I got to tell you about this one time in LA. Apparently, a whole bunch of money was being put into solving the homeless crisis, and a lot of the money got diverted into a lot of NGOs that misappropriated the funds, and so $20 billion later, the homeless problem is not solved, and a lot of the money got wasted. And it's like, okay, I wasn't talking about LA, but we could get into that specific issue if you want to talk about that issue and explore it. You had just asked me what were some of the policies of Tim Walz that I liked. Well, I mean, okay, what about California? Have you heard about what Gavin Newsom was doing in California? It's like, sure, we can talk about that right afterwards, but do you want to address the first part, or do you want me to talk about the things that I like? Name one thing. Kids being fed, child feeding programs for free food for kids. Okay, fine, what else? I mean, like, that one is a pretty good policy in and of itself. I don't know. I don't know if I've been defeated by asking for a second thing.
No, we didn't ask about Walz. You were talking about, you said you like some of the things
He
Walz
asked
was
me
doing.
what I like about Tim Walz.
No, you said you
and
like...
I wanted one of the specifics of the things that he did.
Right. Okay, so, but continue with the following, Sam, if you don't mind, because this is what...
No, you can do a choice if you want to close a public. I mean, Andrew Cuomo, the extension of unions' ability to unionize and helping working people in that way, and then the antitrust regime that was largely a function of like the Warrenites putting in their people to undermine big concentration of money and power. Those are big positives. So, do I like Joe Biden? No, but I also know that if there are the right coalitions formed that have influence within the context of an administration, that's good from my perspective.
Got it. But to me, like running a business or politics, right? Or it shifts when people all of a sudden look at you and they say, I don't like these ideas anymore. So in the Democratic Party, you have a lot of different people that would have different policies. Hey, I think we should do this, and I think we should do that. Great. Obviously, it didn't land November 5th, 2024, whether it was Kamala Harris, whether it was the policies, whether it's 7 states you lose, battleground states you lose, whether it's the majority. It was a bad loss. It was a humiliating loss. One could say it was Kamala, one could say it was Obama, one could say it was Biden stepping, one could say it's Schumer, one could say it's Pelosi. Let's set that part aside. To me, the most basic part is ideas. If someone has ideas that's producing results that people like, they want to continue that, right? And we watched, like if I ask a Democrat, even right now, I ask you for 15 minutes, I still don't know if Democrats know what they're for. Like,
well, I'm not speaking for the Democratic Party. I can tell you what I'm for.
Tell me what you're for.
Oh, I am for universal health care, single payer health care.
Yep.
I am for increased ability to unionize. I am for decommodifying parts of the housing sector. I am for decommodifying power. I am for decommodifying access to the internet. I mean, those are my big ones right there.
Who in your party is for that?
Well, who in the Democratic Party is for that? I don't know that there's anybody who in our party who embraces all of those. I mean, that is a major political figure. I mean, I think I'm to the left of the Democratic Party. But I think there are elements of what I want.
But also, this is such a weird way to set this up because they got in a loop, right? They basically started by saying, can you name one person who's got any policies that you agree with within the Democratic Party? It's like, well, I mean, the big figure was obviously Tim Walz. Here's the things that he did like. And then they tried to get him on that by going to California, and then that was just kind of weird. And then they loop back. It's like, okay, let's try this again. But who do you like? And then it's like, well, okay, Sam's not a member of the Democratic Party. He's got the same job as you, radio commentator. If you turn to the other guys in this podcast and then you're like, hey, by the way, you with the hair really slicked back and you look like Tomato Town, what do you want? And then if he was like, I think that we should lower the age of consent. I think that we should be able to, marry women under the age of 18. I think that, and then I was like, okay, are there any politicians that are reflecting those specific views that you have? And if there isn't, then they're dire straits, right? Like the entire party's in shambles. And it's like, well, I mean, like I don't know if anyone really feels like they 100% get representation in major political parties. That's kind of a problem. But again, I would assume people on the left have a little bit more of a utopian vision than what they're offered to by corporate mainstream Democrats
that are represented by people in the Democratic Party. I mean, I think having a very jaundiced eye to the overwhelming concentration of wealth and wealth disparity, I think is a fundamental problem that we have in this country. I think too much of what happens in this country is a function of the concentration of wealth. I mean, that gets back to why I want to return back to the tax regime we had in the 50s and the 60s, where the top marginal rate was 90% for every dollar above what today's money would be about $4 million. So, and just to explain this, because I've seen so many people on the right not understand marginal tax rates that it's almost disturbing. The first million that you earn is taxed at 32% or whatever the prevailing rate is. The second $2 million you earn, 32%. The third, 32%, because I think that's the highest. Maybe it's 37% is the highest. Once you get over 4 million, every extra dollar after that is taxed at a 90% rate.
That's what you want.
That is what we had in this country for several decades in the post-World War.
Why do you think that's good, though? Because we talked about this. Why do you think that's good?
I'll tell you. Because it flattens wealth disparity.
Okay.
And that is when you have the greatest expansion of the economy.
Right. When
the wealth of the country is shared by as many people as possible. Right. Obviously, it's not everybody gets the same amount, but...
Do you think that's a popular idea? Do you think 80% of Americans want that?
I think if I was to show Americans... You've been
showing for 20 years.
No. Yeah, put up a graph of income disparity.
Right.
You put up a graph of income disparity, Americans are shocked when they realize how much money is held by the top 1% in this country. Really, the top 0.1% relative to the rest. I mean, like literally a handful of families have more money and more wealth in this country than 50% of the population.
There's so many questions to that. For me, the question is the following. Here's where I'm trying to go with it.
You show that to 80% of Americans, and there's no questions. You can be like, what the fuck?
You know what else you can show? You can't, because you're a guest. But you know what else? You can. C-A-N.
Okay,
you can. You're a guest. So if somebody could go and say, okay, why don't you pull up who pays the most taxes in America? The top 1% pays 50%.
I love this magic trick because we're seeing so many of them do this now. People on the right. Matt Walsh was trying to do it. He's just not very eloquent or understands numbers good. So he was trying to be like, yeah, but have you ever looked at who pays the most in taxes in America? It's the richest people. And it's like, yeah. Wait, but do we have a problem with this? The people who make the most amount of money shouldn't pay the most amount of taxes? We can get into the whole, like, how they hide paying taxes or the fair amount of taxes they should be paying. But if you're against that fundamentally as a principle, then I don't know how to build upon this, because my next part would be like, great, they should pay a lot more. A lot more. You shouldn't be able to have the wealth concentration that you see. Whereas right now, like Sam was putting it very quickly, it's literally a handful of mostly dudes who have the same amount of wealth as the majority of the country. That's fucked up. That shouldn't, again, it's such a grotesque amount of wealth inequality that it does lead to a lot of horrifying outcomes.
And the taxes in America. Okay. So you can give that argument. So to me, if we go back and forth, but this is the part I want to do with this specific argument, this specific idea, where I want to go with a guy like you, okay, is I think sometimes, like the Democratic Party, you go to a message and you know how Trump tests things out. Yeah, Greenland, it's Greenland. Yeah, Greenland. It's going to be, so one way or another. We're not going to go to war, but one. Yeah, you know, a third term, I'm not talking about third term, but a lot of people are talking about third term. Yeah, Canada should just be a 51st state. Governor Trudeau. Trump will throw these things out there, okay? And then the market reacts to it. And the market will say, what is he talking about? And then I believe, this is how I do it as a business owner, I'll be in front of, I'll never forget, one time I brought 9 of my guys and I dropped an idea on them. You should have seen the reaction on everybody. You know what the reaction was? They looked at me like I was high. They looked at me like I am on shrooms. They're like, what the fuck?
That's how I felt the totality of watching this so far. Is I'm just like, you have said virtually nothing. You basically have just continuously tried to establish qualifiers and then regurgitate a question again by, again, repackaging it. What I want to know is, okay, what I'm here to find out, when I'm talking to a guy like you, okay, let's establish this. It's very important that we get to the root of this, because for me, it's ideas. I think ideas are so important, and I want you to be able to tell me who amongst you, who represents the Democrats properly. And then it's like, sure, I'll tell you. Okay, but by that, I want you to be able to now tell me and establish, because it's very clear to me that if we were to take someone like Trump, and it's like, you still haven't said anything.
Respectfully, these are terrible ideas. So you know what happens to a business owner? They're so used to coming up with bad ideas. What do? They move on with bad ideas. So to me, Trump gets up there and says, what do you think about this? And then he looks, he says, okay, what's the guy that I respect? Okay, this guy's pretty reasonable. What did he say? What did she say? Okay, let's move on to the Democratic side. Somebody like you.
But I would.
But let me just.
I don't even know how you would react to this though. It's like, oh, that's literally not what he does. No, Trump is not an ideas man. He doesn't want to sit in a conference full of like-minded people who challenge him or his ideas. He needs people to bend over and lick his toes clean. That's what he wants. Yeah, that's clearly how he dictates himself. You can watch it happen in real time. If people try to, question or challenge him, how exactly he reacts to them. He doesn't sit there being like, and who's got another? Okay, yeah. I think that's the best idea. Yeah, the cream has risen to the top. Good job.
To point, I'll come to you. Trust me, I want to hear from you. To me, I feel like the Democrats, like you, okay, you have a voice. People watch you. You're an influencer in your community. And you actually have the ability to kind of go and help your community out, help your party out. There are certain policies that you keep pitching that is no longer popular, that's been exposed so many times, because what we learned, like the biggest part why
is it going to be
some of the conservatives like the DOGE concept and some of the Democrats that like the DOGE concept is it's government wasted expenditure. Obama talked about it. Clinton's talked about it. People on the left have talked about it for many, many years. And the average person watches this and says, okay, so after 4 million, you want to put the tax rate at 90%? Yes, I do. Okay, so all you're saying is that the government knows how to.
So it took him forever to get there, but what you're saying is you feel like you're getting taxation without representation. Classic Tea Party stuff. At the end of the day, DOGE was successfully able to expose all these dirty, dirty secrets that no one knew about, even though it was publicly available information that anyone could have looked up on the internet at any time. But a lot of that is stuff that you have decided amongst yourselves that you don't want to pay for. Some of it, I'm sure, people could justify one way or another if it happens to involve U.S. imperialism, soft power, stuff like that. That's one angle. The other angle is that you just don't care if millions of people starve in other countries, and didn't even know that there was these US aid programs that were preventing mass amounts of HIV infections or having people who die from starvation. And now you found a way for you to pause that and be like, okay, well, now we don't have to spend $4 million on pre-digested food anymore, even though it's already been made and it's just sitting there going to waste, and it could be flying out right now to make sure that children don't die. Instead, we're basically just going to say that we're saving money, and he's saving us so much money. How much money is he saving us? Oh, you'll never believe it. Look at this, $5 billion. 10, 16, 17 billion dollars. It's like, okay, some of that actually isn't right. This thing here is actually just wrong. But how about this? I'll give you 10 billion. You save $10 billion by making sure a lot of people starve and die. Again, the U.S. military budget is almost $1 trillion. Trillion, T, much bigger. Again, the U.S. has been audited. The Pentagon failed its audit 7 years in a row to the tune of trillions of dollars, again with E. So the order of magnitude by over 100 times of what you're proposing, saving. And again, your savings come with immense human suffering and cruelty. So for you to be like, well, we're saving money on the amount of money we spend and waste, because you don't want to waste that money, unfortunately, it does come at the cost of, again, millions of starving children and kids dying from HIV infections and AIDS. But you save some money there. You could save a lot more money if you were ever to look at where exactly is that massive expenditure of military spending that the U.S. does every year. But that just never gets discussed. Not by DOGE, not by Trump, not by the Penis Balls Dick podcast. I don't know if that's where Sam's about to go with this.
Use my money better than free enterprise? I don't believe that.
Well,
so that's where the argument stops.
That's not the premise of why I want to do that taxation. I mean, the government will redistribute the money. And
that's no longer a popular idea in America.
I
That's the part where you see the young Turks kind of growing and evolving and seeing some of the ideas that kind of is not popular.
Listen, the fact of the matter is government always redistributes money. It always redistributes money. Every government at every moment is redistributing money. The question is, which direction is that money flowing? That's it. There is no doubt. Governments redistribute money at every moment. The question is, which direction
are they at it?
What?
How successful have they been at it? How good are they at it? How much waste have they done with redistributing money?
Oh, there's no doubt in my mind. Like, look, we have a massive, massive military budget. And if you want to look for waste and fraud in government, that is where you go. That's where all the money is. Everybody knows it. There's an enormous amount of waste and fraud. They can't even get through an audit. How many audits has it been? Half a dozen? Social Security, and they can't pass a single audit.
I agree.
Social Security is audited all the time. Do you know how much money? Let's talk about this for a second.
Sam went there.
I watched the video of you guys on the plane down of when Elon Musk was in Wisconsin blowing up his whole brand, essentially. And he was on stage with a guy named Garcia. Do you guys remember this video?
Of course.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
It was like 2 days ago.
Yes. The Social Security numbers spiking in the last 4 years.
The Social Security numbers.
2.2 million
yes.
new non-citizen Social Security numbers. Yes.
And the amount of misinformation from every single person, all of you, was astonishing to me.
What was it? What was the misinformation?
I mean, I almost feel like we should go thugh the whole video.
This is coming from a socialist.
No, wait.
Credibility of a socialist.
Yes,
progressive system that is never worked.
Oh my God, the defense. My boys, there's 4 of you, all right? We all love a gangbang, but come on, slow down. Not everyone has to speak at once. It's just Sam. What was the misinformation, bro? Huh? What? What you going to talk about? What you got? What you got?
But I want to hear it.
That is anti-oligarchy.
But I want to hear it. I want to hear it. Go for it.
First off, you seem to not understand that these were not undocumented immigrants who were getting these Social Security numbers. They are non-citizens. Now, when you came to this country, you were an immigrant. Your parents came legally.
Right.
Every single one of those people who got those Social Security numbers are here legally. They're not citizens, just like you weren't when you first came to this country.
Yeah.
You get a green card. Your parents get a green card. They go through a process.
Yeah.
All of those people, and understand, they got their Social Security card.
I really want to see your point.
Well, the point is, you referred to them as undocumented and illegal.
The first part is you have to listen to the words that he says out loud and then process them. And then take in the information, and then you can suddenly analyze it and produce a response. I'm sorry, I don't know why I need to describe the basic tenets of how communication works. I'm waiting for you to make a point. Well, I'm sorry, I just made several, but sorry, which one did you disagree with? All I'm saying here is that
I said non-citizen.
No, excuse me.
Don't say everyone here. I said non-citizen. Correct yourself.
I can't remember which one of you got it wrong. I think you did.
Just be
Right, so
specific.
you're thinking, but
we can play the video and go through it. But
I'm still trying to get to the
I
point.
just want to make.
Point?
Well, the point is,
Yeah, what's
they're
the
not
point, bro?
they're not illegal. They're not undocumented. They're all legal.
Right.
The expansion from that program, the EBE program, which is enumeration beyond entry, was started under the Trump administration. The numbers have gone up because, yes, under Biden, as opposed to Trump, there was an expansion of people who were here, probably, I'm not sure.
A lot of illegals.
No, excuse me.
10 plus million
not a single one of them.
record-breaking
Not
number
a
of
single.
people
Hold on, you're
came
changing
in.
the subject now.
No,
yeah, see, that's the problem. It's like, how can we have a conversation when it's like, oh, well, I disagreed with your assertment that you said that illegal immigrants were receiving social care in the form of Social Security, when that's not true. In the same way, like you could say the same thing about how they were all worried about how illegal immigrants are going to be voting in the next election, and they're changing the demographics, and they're going to be voting for Democrats, and that destroys it. Or illegal immigrants are coming into the country and they're taking welfare and they're stealing. And it's like, but they don't get those things. They can't do those things. They're not buying houses because they can't afford them. They're not voting because they're not American citizens. And they're also not receiving Social Security for the same reason. They are paying taxes. That is a thing that they have to do while not receiving the benefits. So if anything, you are incentivizing a large percentage of them to try and figure out the best way to avoid that process. Because why give money to a government and get nothing in return? You know, taxation without representation, that whole problem. But that is a real thing that is happening. But at the end of the day, to vilify that group consistently, to keep being like, well, it's the immigrants that are destroying the country, and it's the immigrants that are destroying. But they don't get the things or do the things that you say they do. They can't. They're not American citizens by definition.
I'm talking about that video, and every one of those Social Security numbers that was handed out.
So how do you feel about the illegal immigrants that came those 4 years?
I will get to illegal.
You don't care about those people.
I will get to the undocumented.
You cared about children.
Well, you don't want to talk about this, and I don't blame you because it's embarrassing.
No. But let me do a quick time out.
Every one of those Social Security numbers.
Do a quick time out here. Sam, let me just do a quick time out. You said you don't want to talk about this. You just spun away from a question I asked you, and you brought this up. You haven't even addressed the question I asked you.
Let me finish. We'll get to the
point that
illegal
I asked. Let's go back to what I asked you. I asked you a question that the money that's going in, Americans prove that they don't trust the government getting the money than free market, free enterprise.
I don't think that's the case.
You never addressed that.
I don't think that's the case. People love Social Security. People love
wasted
Medicare.
expenditure. What we learned with DOGE. The American people said, Sam, enough of you taking our tax money.
Again, this is so frustrating because you can't have a conversation with someone on the other end who's literally just saying whatever they want to say out loud, regardless of what you respond with. That's why I'm like, the basic tenets of conversation are taking place here. If it's like, okay, I'd like to address that specifically, the point that you brought up, here it is, here's my response, and then there you have it. Yeah, but that's not what I'm talking. Hey, you refuse to answer whether or not, at the end of the day, Americans respect the work of DOGE. It's like, but what the fuck are you talking about? That wasn't at all what you just asked me.
See what you're doing with it.
Elon Musk made that Wisconsin election of a referendum on DOGE. To the extent that we've seen anybody vote on DOGE, nobody heard the word DOGE before November of last year.
PBD has ADHD. Yeah, so do I. But I know how to have a basic conversation with someone. I know in my heart that if I didn't want to actually engage with them and have a conversation with them, that I could just talk over them and say whatever I wanted to say. That I'd be conscious of the fact that I was doing that. I'd be like, I could just say whatever I want right now. Yeah, no, I'm not going to listen to a word you say back to me or a single point that you make, but I am going to bring up a completely irrelevant point to that to make you look bad right now. And I'm going to say, so you were completely fine, again, with killing kids then. That's the thing that you're for. So what I was saying, hey, is if you love killing kids, that's your thing. I disagree. I am not for that. I think that's gross. That's disgusting. You should be ashamed of yourself. Anyways, let's move on to another the point after the kid killer over here admitted that he loves to kill children.
That we've seen a referendum on DOGE, it just happened in Wisconsin. It happened in Florida,
thank you for being a member.
Where the size of the win by those Republican
I don't know. I think
was
Sam
cut
is once
by
again
17,
steamrolling
20 points. I mean, this is a wipeout. And every Republican, you're going to see a difference in Republican lawmakers over the next year and a half, because anybody who was in a plus Trump 8 district or less is now starting to go like, wait a second. That's why Musk is being shown the door, supposedly. So getting back to my point about those Social Security numbers, they were given all to legal non-citizens. And every one of those cards, you can't vote, because I think you definitely said, and I think maybe you said, that this is a Democratic strategy to get voters. Hold on for a second. The Social Security card that they get literally says not legitimate for voting purposes. It is so that these non-citizens who are legal, just like when you came in, pay into the Social Security system and get, many of them never get that money back. So in addition to the undocumented immigrants who pay in $22 billion a year into Social Security and get zero back,
it out there.
These people pay several billion dollars in a year, and only if they become citizens, which most of them won't. Most of them will go back home over a period of time. They're here for temporary protected status. Maybe some of them are refugees and they get permanent citizenship. They won't get that money either. So every single thing of that video, this video here, was completely wrong that you guys did. It was fascinating to me because I feel like you, at the very least, I believe that you care about the information you're putting out. And this was all wrong. And
so they're up there. So Sam, this is all a lie. These guys were up there just completely bullshitting with all the numbers. Where he's saying that people in the government are blowing.
I will be louder now. My points are
giving them praise. And for Sam, for you to say that you care about the kids and the labor and all that stuff. We've had an open border for 4 years. And
see right there, like we're not speaking English anymore. Again, it's just like, hey, by the way, this again is just factually incorrect to say this, like make a statement where you're saying that they are simply getting these Social Security guards to be able to vote in an election. Illegal immigrants are coming over here to vote illegally. This is just not based in reality. It's, as much as you want to scream about it and get emotional about it, and like clearly you can see how quickly he just immediately just turns it up, right? This is why you want to bring in the borders, the rapists, the blah, and it's like, whoa, chill the fuck out. Again, like this is just factually incorrect. If we don't have some kind of like, is 1 + 1 2? Is 2 + 2 4? Can we build upon just, you know, the things that we agree upon our material reality in the world to be, or like just get really angry about something right now?
All the illegals, way more than 10 million, have come into this country. California, is that where you live?
No.
Where do you live?
I live in New York.
Why are all of you obsessed with California so much? California, tampons.
Okay, great, even better. California. So the amount of money that we spent on illegals with housing and all that shit, and Gavin Newsom passing a law that you don't even need an ID to vote. You're saying that we're coming up with where these people aren't coming in for the votes? That's the main goal of this whole thing. What was the open border for? Why was the border open for 4 years? Answer me that question.
First of all,
and the gish galloping, he's saying like 50 things at once. Why open borders? Why do you love them? You just let millions of people into California. California, right? I live in New York. Other side of the country, exact same thing. Wait, yeah, even worse. Millions of people, border, tampons.
Well, the border was not open.
Give me are you kidding me? Look at the. What do you mean the border wasn't open? Hold on. Did you smoke before you came in here? That's ridiculous.
By the way, Vinny, here's the part.
Well, yeah, no, wait. Sorry, does every right winger think that the U.S. border, it was an open border policy under Biden? That's just not true. Actually, it's one of the things that, like, you know, people usually bring up when they discuss. Hey, by the way, Biden loved locking up people at the border as well. It was like he loved deporting people too. So did Obama. They did a lot of it. They did a lot of locking people up and separating families and deporting them back to their countries of origin. That's just America. It doesn't matter who's in power.
Full of it, bro.
Here's the part.
Get out of here.
Sam, here's the part.
I would say the distinct difference was the showboating, where people like Greg Abbott would be like, we have now taken, 15 illegals, put them on a bus, and now sent them over to Democratic blue states to see how they like it. Now you have to deal with it. And then they get there and they'd be like, we're going to try and find you temporary housing while we work out what's going on. But yeah. So the human trafficking element, the showboating for Fox News, like clips, that is I guess the difference.
Okay.
Anybody can look at that video. The things you were saying yesterday was a complete sack of lies.
Or just misinformation.
Be honest with me.
Immigration year over year over year. Illegal immigration year over year.
The fact that you're saying the border wasn't wide open. How many deaths have happened? How many fentanyl deaths have happened per year while you're freaking president, Joe Biden?
Please bring up Canada next. How many evil Canadian fucking fentanyl mules? How many Canadian mules crossed over the border and killed us all?
Was in office. How many? Hold on. How many Americans died just from fentanyl? And you're saying the border wasn't wide open? We've had the most illegal entry in 4 years in the history of the country.
Yeah, part of me doesn't know whether or not he just likes the pageantry of it all, like, you know, the theatrics of just really losing his shit on a podcast. So people are like, whoa, that guy cares, bro. He cares about the fent. Or like if he actually knows that he's just lying through his teeth, because ultimately one of the big problems with fentanyl and the increase in the amount of people dying is, you know, part of the opioid crisis that we've identified in a lot of North America. We have it here in Canada too. Even I know you think we're the source of all your fentanyl. We're not. It is the fact that fentanyl is very, very powerful, and it's a synthetic drug that can be mass produced. It's one of the reasons why it's taken over a lot of the other opioids, because yeah, I mean, under capitalism, if you have an illegal market for a product that is sold illegally to other people, they're probably going to try and maximize their profits by having the smallest amount of the most potent drugs that is less that you have to hold and transport and risk to yourself if you're going to get caught by the police. So it turns out the stronger the drugs are, the more potent they are, the more profitable they are, but the more dangerous they are as well. So yeah, more and more people will die from their use. It's why all of a sudden you see problems with things like carfentanil, which are like 80 times the potency of fentanyl. But it's like you used to have to get opioids by farmers in Afghanistan growing poppy seeds, mass manufacturing vast amounts of it, concentrating that into bricks, shipping that illegally to other countries to get processed into things like heroin and other drugs, and then that makes its way into North America. And by the time it gets there, that brick is extremely expensive. Whereas now you could get the precursors made in China, shipped to a factory in America, where they then can mass produce vast quantities of fentanyl and then distribute it way cheaper. That's why there's a bigger crisis and more people dying. It's, again, one that was only made possible thanks to the work of people like the Purdue family and pharmaceutical companies that were pushing opioids on the population, getting a large percentage of them addicted just in time for the fentanyl crisis to begin. That's not because the border has been open. It's not 4 years of open borders with Biden led to all of that.
Let me finish. And this is why your party sucks. This is why your party is at 29% approval. 20%. Because you got 20. Thank you. Because all you guys do is talk shit and just go anti-Trump. You have no policies. You guys have no vision. You have no.
That's all you're doing. you're doing that, but Sam is trying to actually bring up points, being like, oh no, I have specifics I'd like to bring up and why you lied specifically with the specific point. It's not true. Specifically.
Open borders. You're talking about oligarchs and you hate the oligarchs. What do you think Bernie Sanders and AOC are going to get their money from? Their donors. Are you like, don't lie to yourself. For you to look and like, brother, you're talking about yesterday we lied.
AOC and Bernie Sanders don't.
Hold on, ready for this? You're saying that we lied 2 days ago. You just lied, and you're going to look like a fool that the border wasn't wide open. Look at this chart. What does that chart say to you? What is that? What did Trump, when Trump was in, he was trying to close it, but your party was fighting it. It's unbelievable how many illegals have come in the past 100 days.
But this is the part to just be very.
Wait. That doesn't mean the border was open. You realize that, right? You wouldn't even have those numbers. You wouldn't have any numbers if it was open. It would be an open border. There wouldn't be an increase or decrease ratio by very much, because no one would be kept in or out because the borders would be open. That's the definition. Oh my God.
The data. Illegal immigration, this is Wall Street Journal, is a bigger problem than ever.
Oh, no, that's
These
fake
five
news.
charts explain why. Go a little bit lower. That's under Biden.
Trump got shot trying to show these charts. Literally.
This is October of 2023. Go to the next one.
Just keep saying random shit. You created the fentanyl crisis. That's one of the reasons Trump got shot. What do you have to say about that, huh, Sam?
Registered Republican.
Here's another
Hold
one.
on, wait, can I address what his
let me just show the
rant
data,
was?
and then I want you to say what you want to say. Go a little bit lower with the data, Ron. No, because he said it's inaccurate. This is another one here showing
go back
data.
up. Go back up to the.
And then go to the last one, Rob. Go to the last one, Rob.
Go to the top one here.
I mean, this is the numbers you're talking about.
Charts.
So this is you can
start one by one. Go up.
Explain every one of them. Go for it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, you can see that this is what constitutes illegal immigration. These are, if it was an open border, you would not have these numbers. You would not have the numbers to know when Title 42 ends.
Yeah.
More people are coming to the border and they're being put into a system. Period.
That's the best part about
it. And that's the
because
definition.
they were told to come. Sam, let me say something.
No.
When you're come to the country.
Yeah, I'm sorry. You gotta put like a muzzle on it. Just something, or at the very least a mute button or a timeout, or maybe give him a room, a happy room filled with the things he likes. I don't know. High, GHB, whatever his favorite things are. You just put them in that room and you let him hang out and enjoy himself. And then he can address the points that he's saying one by one, just so it could be actually like, hey, by the way, I want to address this point. I want to specifically talk about the very nuances of the things that you're bringing up here.
No, I'm not yelling. You just give me facts.
Can I turn down his microphone? Because
you can't. You see which one he is? I think he's
right.
seat 3 or which one is it? Rob?
Seat 3.
Seat 3.
Seat 3. Go ahead. Lower that right there.
And then the mic.
Right there. There you
Volume,
go. Is
just
that
lower.
good? Is that good?
Seat
Oh, seat
2.
2. There you go.
Okay, go for it.
All right.
Go
All right,
ahead.
good.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. So
You're still going to hear
Well, I was going to say, maybe not put them beside each other, too. Maybe, again, you should probably just put them in a separate room.
the truth, though. Go ahead.
no, I'm happy to.
Yeah.
Can't turn down the truth. Is
No,
what
you
you're saying.
can't.
Open
Whoa.
border would mean that we have no records.
Turn down the truth. Fucking you try hard cringe. Fucking hell. What a bunch of fuckboys. You can't turn down the truth, brother. Good luck turning down the freedom.
People coming across the border. The law in this country has been that if you put your foot in this country, it's an international law, it's a U.S. law. If you put your foot in this country and you apply for asylum, you are due a process to do that. 98% of those people who are then what you guys would call catch and release come back for their hearings. We are woefully understaffed in terms of like immigration judges, and that process is definitely broken. I would love to see more money spent in the processing of these people so that we can establish which ones, like your family,
Like my family as
Maybe-
well. Illegal immigrants.
but came in
Yep.
through a refugee status. They weren't citizens on day one. They came in, they went through a process, and it's possible at that time. I mean, I remember, I was old enough to remember the Iran hostage situation. I remember the fallout afterwards. There may have been some form of temporary protected status, whatever it was at the time, that allows people to come in. Then they're assessed and processed. It's determined that, yes, their claim for asylum is appropriate or not, et cetera, et cetera. That's what we're looking at there. As you scroll up on those other charts, you can see when Title 42 ends, which was only supposed to be an emergency situation that has to do with health, and you can't have it both ways. Either COVID ends or it doesn't end, the pandemic. And so people come in. There's no doubt, and that number on that chart that Musk had, under Biden, more people received temporary protected status. We had a problem in Haiti as the country has fallen apart. You had people from Ukraine coming in because of, obviously, the invasion. These are all under temporary
here's the
protected
question for
status.
you,
They
Sam.
all got
Sam.
Social Security numbers so they could pay taxes into our government and not necessarily get
vote
the services
Democrats,
back.
yes, and vote for
No,
Democrats.
they
Thank you.
can't vote.
Right.
Those Social Security cards literally say,
No, please. Yeah, they keep bringing that up. Yeah, and vote illegally for the Democrats. No, they don't get to do that. They're not citizens. They're not U.S. citizens. They can't vote in the election. Well, take all our money in the form of welfare. They can't do that. They cannot apply for welfare. Not a thing that they can do. Well, to come and take all the homes. Can't do that either. If they're just obscenely rich, perhaps. I mean, there's probably a few exceptions to the rule, but for the most part, yeah, if they are refugees and fleeing some kind of problem from another nation, most likely not arriving into the country with, again, hundreds of thousands of dollars, which if they were, they'd have to declare it. Then they'd be taxed on those hundreds of thousands of dollars. And also, again, they're not just buying up the homes instantaneously. Just not a thing that's happening, right?
on the card say, you can't use this for voting.
AOC said we don't have an illegal.
And also the chart that Elon zoomed into was 5 years. When you zoom out, the tall bar looks like nothing. I know, but why do that? Why talk about facts? Like, again, it's a lot scarier if you're just like, we literally had open borders. And it's like, no, you didn't. You did not. You, by definition, did not have open borders under Biden. It's just not a thing.
Immigration problem. We have a
subscription.
I believe you because Jubilee helped you.
Okay, but my point is that
credit to you. You should say thank you to Jubilee. That's a
thank
very
you, Jubilee.
Yeah.
I would also add that I think there are definitely people who watch my show and then over a period of time are going,
Yeah, thank you, Jubilee.
And proudly, those people move to the left of where I'm at.
You think people move to the left?
100%.
Sam, do you realize?
100%.
Do you realize how to make a statement? And I love that you said it.
Oh, it's true.
I love that you said it. So you think people who age and live longer, they go further to the left and to the right? You think as people mature in life?
Am I the oldest person on this?
No, you're not. But
I'm pretty close. I bet.
No, you're pretty far. It's just the other guy looks very young. But you
How old are you?
He's 62.
You got me by 3 years.
Yeah. So you're not. So
you're 59, dude.
Yeah.
Good for you.
But do you think as people age they become more conservative or more liberal, more leftist?
Wait, you didn't even get a win on that. Where it's like, yeah, well, at least we're aging better than you.
The housing market is not broken. It's working as designed. It's designed to benefit the super rich and investors and make the rest of us pay the price. It's designed to jack up our rents and make homelessness skyrocket. Vancouver doesn't have to be this way. We can make housing affordable by closing loopholes landlords use to jack up rents, building affordable public housing, and stopping dem evictions. I'm Sean Orr, and I'm running to be your next city councillor with COPE. On April 5th, let's fight for Vancouver.
Don't let this happen to you. Go to serfscoffee.com to order the only end-to-end owned indigenous coffee company that delivers blood-free, conflict-free, and cruelty-free beans right to your door. 0% of people who drink serfscoffee.com have exploded spontaneously. By ordering right now, you get 10% off plus free shipping, and it's the best way to enjoy delicious coffee while not exploding. That's serfscoffee.com, serfscoffee.com.
Thank you so much for watching, everyone. This video wouldn't be at all possible without the financial support of all the people whose names you see on the screen right now. And if you want to unlock secret bonus episodes, content that we can't post anywhere else, or get the videos early before anyone else gets to see them, please go on to patreon.com/theserfs. For as little as $1, you can help support this channel and help make more videos like this possible. Our executive producers are Anna Loves Riley, Adrian McCarthy, Bobby Lasers, Cheryl Alvarez, Comrade Junkie, Doug Caddy, Everything Important, Garrett Sandoval, Hagbard Celine, Jimmy Sombrero, Multimondi, Omni, Political Papi, Preston Kroll, Quiet 185, Richard Boehm, Riley and Anna, Roller Dragon, Cernicus, Stellar Gwyn, Sebastian Demel, Tigwick, Trav, and Words Greenwood. And also, it wouldn't be possible without all the names you see on the screen right now. Again, if you want to help produce this content, it's only made possible through the funding of our patrons. Head on down to patreon.com/theserfs. That's patreon.com/theserfs.